So I first want to spend a little bit of time talking about cryptocurrencies. Although we've all heard about blockchain-centric currencies like Bitcoin and Ether in the other lectures, it pays to think about them for a little bit. And in particular, what I want to do is I want to discuss two models, which made written by a set of authors that made a very serious attempt to assess how can we find a value for cryptocurrencies, how can we estimate what the fair value is, to think of whether or not this is are we just trading stickers that have zero value, or is actually something that is there. Now, again, what is a cryptocurrency? It is a crypto asset that is native to a blockchain, and it's essential for the operation, in particular because it provides a coin-based reward for miners. Examples are Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Cardano, and where the creation and redemption process is intrinsic to a blockchain. Now, as we talk about coins, tokens, and cryptocurrencies, we have to think briefly about the economics of a financial asset. So when we think of equity, it is essentially as an ownership. So it's a call option, if you want, on the company. It is the residual claim to all future cash flows of a firm after you pay debt and taxes. So the way we describe it essentially is the fundamental value of a firm is the net present value of all cash flows. So this is expressed in math. And in the numerator, you find the interest rate R, which is really quite tricky to find because you need to know what is the right way to discount future cash flows. And a large part of what finance is about is finding the right rate of return. And it's also difficult to obviously estimate what the future cash flows are. So you need to form expectations and so on and so forth. That's a tricky business. All right, now what is a coin? Well, it's a means of payment, and in a blockchain-centric world, it's also a mining reward. Now, what's the value of this? Well, there could be any kinds of values that people attach to it. Similar to what people think about when they think about fiat money, right? So, for instance, convenience, storage. There's risk of loss, so there's some cost involved in having money. The cost of storage. There could be volatility in its value relative to the usage when you need it. And then there could be inflation and monetary policy that are involved and that affect the value of the money. So if you live in Venezuela, if you live in Argentina in the 1990s, you will understand that certain different currencies have different values. All right, now let's think about some models. So one very nice model is by Bruno Viais, Martin Bizier, and co-authors, circulated first in October 2018. What they've developed is an overlapping generations where you have young and old investors. So, where young and old overlap by one generation. And when they overlap, there's a transfer of the money from one party to another, from old to young. Why do we need this? Well, we want people to be able to push their consumption, their money across time so that they can finance their consumption in both periods. So there's three assets in this model. There's a cryptocurrency, there's a fiat currency, and there's a risk-free asset. Now there's miners, and the miners mine and then receive a reward for their mining activities. And what the young have is they have a consumption good as an endowment. They can buy cryptocurrency, they can buy fiat currency, and then whatever they don't put into either of these, they put into savings. And if you want to buy any cryptocurrency, you have to pay mining fees for that. Now, crypto has its own transaction benefits in the future, and there's another model that I talk about later where you can find a few reasons why you want to do that. So now the question is, so how do we model this? Well, we have a consumption description, right? So you have the consumption of the young and you have the consumption of the old. The young basically consume everything that they don't invest in crypto, that they put in fiat, and that they don't save. And when they're old, they receive interest on their savings. They receive whatever payments they get when they liquidate their crypto holdings, and when they liquidate their fiat currency holdings. And so what the young then do is they want to optimize their utility over those two periods. And what you get as an equilibrium price is that the price has to satisfy essentially a utility transformation across the two periods equation. Now this may look very cryptic, but this essentially is a standard result from economics and finance. Now, one of the things that we are going to define is something called the convenience yield, which is the relation here 1 plus theta divided by 1 plus f prime. What it basically measures is the transactional benefit theta net of transaction cost f prime. So this is essentially what you get from holding this, why you want to hold this cryptocurrency. So when we look at the first order condition and we look at this with regards to the savings rate, so what we want to get is we want to get the relation of the discount rate and the interest rate. We get the coefficient beta has to be, essentially 1 plus r divided by the marginal rates of consumption of the old and the young, where we take, the expectation for 1. And so then we can rewrite the price as just the discounted expected utility of the holdings that you have in the future. So this is my crypto price. Now, what we can see is that there could be multiple equilibria. For instance, the price P equals 0, it all dates is in equilibrium, and any model that I've seen of cryptocurrency so far satisfies that. But there could be also other prices. So the price of the current cryptocurrency is the present value of the expectation of the product of two terms. One is the pricing kernel, which captures the correlation between marginal utility of consumption and the cryptocurrency price. And the second thing is the sum of the crypto price and its convenience yield. So the pricing equation is quite standard and is similar to that of any other assets that we have. So for instance, we can write monetary theory models, we can write models for stock markets, except that this third term is the convenience yield that will be different. All right, now what is a coin? So what is the convenience yield? Really what it is, ultimately, is a scalar multiplied with the crypto price. So results that we see here is that if the price of the cryptocurrency goes up, then the convenience yield also goes up. This is not the same as when we look at stocks in markets. So what the stock does, it reflects essentially the present value of future prices and dividends. So the dividends do not depend on the stock price. This is very critical because dividends are just a cash amount that you be paid. So for stocks, dividends cause fundamental value and therefore the prices. That is a fundamental reason. For cryptocurrencies, prices cause convenience yield, and therefore they cause fundamental value. So it is sort of like, one causes the other. It's intrinsic, and that leads to also possibly multiple equilibria. All right, so that's the first model. There's some further insights that we have. We can interpret the convenience theta as usefulness in e-commerce, or if you want in illicit activities, so you want to buy. If you're, in Canada, you can buy cannabis, of course, now legally. But if you want to do this in the US, you have to probably go through the darknet. There's multiplicity. So if there's a price sequence that forms an equilibrium, then if I take this price sequence and add some noise term, which has zero expectation, that is also an equilibrium. So there could be potentially very large volatility in cryptocurrency prices, even when the fundamentals aren't really very volatile. If you have a large transaction cost for cryptocurrencies, then you have large expected returns. If you have large benefits from cryptocurrencies, then you actually have small expected returns. So the interpretation here is Bitcoin prices reflect really what they do is they reflect future streams of transactional benefits. That's what this model is all about. In the future, when the transactional services of Bitcoin will become large, then Bitcoin prices will have increased further. But the expected return in equilibrium will be now lower. So that's that.